All right, welcome back. Happy to have you
Hello.
back, Siciliana.
It's good to be
um,
back, Clorama.
yeah. Thank you all for hopefully you guys are joining us again. If you haven't seen our first podcast, please go ahead and check that out where we talk about the state of XR today and kind of unpack that. In this episode, I'm really excited. We talk about smart glasses and how do we think about this, especially given the maybe a lot of people feel like baggage from the XR being in the XR industry for 10 years. Now we're being told that there's a new North Star of smart glasses and that we can be excited about. There's an elephant in the room we need to address essentially, and that's kind of what this podcast is about. I should introduce myself. I am Clorama. I'm Clorama. I've worked in a big tech for the last decade. I've been in emerging tech, working in VR and XR since like 2015. Was a developer, was an entrepreneur, and I was a product manager. Did all the things.
Hi, everyone. I'm Siciliana Trevino. I'm a 3D designer, world builder, and filmmaker. And I got my start in XR back in 2015. I was hosting meetups in downtown Berkeley. And my first 360 music video was funded through Kickstarter. And I was a former product manager for Alco VR. So my focus in XR is really around how we can create shared moments of delight and help folks overcome social isolation with immersive technology.
Yeah. And I'm really excited because I do feel like as I mentioned before, I enjoy chatting with Cecilia because I feel like we both bring different perspectives to this. But one thing to take away or recap from the last podcast that we both kind of landed on clarity in terms of what we feel is success for this market. For me, that was I want to see this technology integrated in everyday society, more efficiency, like less mistakes that are happening across all these different the industries that impact our lives. I want to see improvements happening because now there's an access to a tool that not only expedites learning, is more retentive, but also makes it cheaper and easier for everyone to get high quality training or education. And so I want our society to benefit from that innovation.
So, for me in this space, my definition of success is creating a sustainable career where I can have the financial freedom to own my own time and to set my own schedule. VR gave everyone a lot of that promise of remote work. And that was crucial during the pandemic when the conversation of the metaverse really started to kick off. And since then, we've seen the demise of a lot of the platforms that the XR users use to socialize. And with all of these changes in that direction, how do we as creators define success for ourselves? So that's that financial independence and understanding what technology is more conducive to the kinds of stories that I wanna tell. So it's really not about the platform, but it's around the creative vision that I have as an artist to articulate those ideas, bring people together, and give them the kind of immersive experiences that, we seek out to help us see the world in a new way or to help see ourselves in a new way and connect meaningfully with others.
Mhm.
So there's a lot to the success there. There's a lot of movement and there's a lot to keep up with. And so I think these conversations are helpful to sort of map out where we're at and see where we want to go and the outcomes we'd like to see.
This goal of this conversation is not necessarily to sell, but it's also not to overly critique or vent. It's more
Oh, I'd
so,
like to overly
yeah.
critique. That's why you
Fair
have
enough.
me here, Karma, because I'm going to overly critique.
Critique for sure. Honesty is my
Oh,
goal. There's a lot of narratives around smart glasses today, which are reminiscent of a lot of the narratives around VR that I think were over promising, that were a bit speculative, that were
more hope than
sensationalized.
Yeah, more
Yeah.
hope than strategy. It was hopeful
Yes.
that we were gonna, by now what I think Mark Zuckerberg had the promise that 1 billion people in VR. That was the dream back in,
Yeah.
Oculus Connect which is the
Yeah.
big conference that Meta has, when it was still called Oculus.
And that's not the wrong thing to have. Like I love lofty goals. I think we all were excited about that. I remember him
I
announcing
hate
that and we
lofty
were all,
goals.
you
No,
hate
set your
lofty
sights
goals.
lower. We're not thinking no.
Well, what it does do, it does force us to think in that way. But then there's a question of then by thinking about 1 billion users before thinking about building the right product, do we like skip a step that's very critical in order to get it? Like, do we end up like blocking ourselves from reaching that goal because we're not no longer thinking about the product in a human centered way?
It seems like it's the job of tech to constantly bring us into, an imagined future that manifests by the sheer inspiration that people take from that vision of, "Okay,
Hmm.
we're this is how far out we're gonna go." But
Yes.
at the same time, it's an interesting dilemma because you really also have to keep your feet on the ground,
Yeah, for foot on the
head in the
brake.
clouds, yeah,
Yeah.
head in the clouds, feet on the ground, because as we've seen with the metaverse, you could lose $70 billion.
Yeah, obviously, we all love ambition in Silicon Valley. That is what we're supposed to do, and that is the name of the game. We wouldn't be where we are today if we see today as good, if we didn't have that wild ambition. But I think to your point, it's that when that those ambitious statements get made, how do we discern? Okay, well, if that's the goal that they're getting to, how do I jump on the ship, but also make sure I have a life raft in case we don't get there? Is really important because there are predictions being made. We're looking at these CEOs like they're astrologers, like where they're saying this is where we're going to be in this year and this year and this year. And so now, because of all these predictions, we're in this new hype era where that is what keeps people engaged, people invested, and people, and that's the way to sell a product before it gets born, especially in the bleeding edge tech arena. There's a lot more areas for miss now. We make these assumptions like you have all the money in the world, you have all the greatest talents in the world, all working on this one thing. Unfortunately, no matter how big they are not infallible to not getting it right.
Without question, it's
Yeah.
definitely a for me personally, it's a love-hate relationship. It's opened the door to learn how the technology works and how to create apps and how to take people to new places. So, it's a dynamic creative tool that opened the doors for a lot of people, and, but now that those doors are open, it's definitely a Pandora's box because there are so many other concerns around this technology, and now moving into smart glasses, it would be one thing if everybody today was using VR headsets to conduct business and to socialize. Like, I mean, it's it's heartbreaking. You have a company that invented social media. I mean, they didn't invent it, but they made it global and mainstream with Facebook, but could not get that 3D component that Fortnite or that Roblox got right away, right? They've scaled super fast. They didn't need 10 years to get to the user base that they have now. They
Right.
are considered a metaverse even though it's on a 2D screen. They don't need a headset. They created these games that everyone, or at least lots of young people, want to be a part of. And now we have to follow this vision of super intelligence in these glasses. And I think that's a real hard sell for people that followed Mark down the metaverse avenue. And while a lot of people will jump on the next big thing, is this the next big wave? We've seen a lot of the damage that since 2016, 17, these stories around addiction to social media. Um, in fact, speaking of smart glasses and addictions to
Mm.
social media, there was a court case around addiction for social media, and the legal team they were wearing the Meta glasses in the courtroom. Did you see this story that came
Yeah, I saw
out? And
that.
so
Yeah.
they were gonna be held the judge said they were gonna hold them in contempt of court for wearing these glasses, which it's prohibited to record in the courtroom. So they were like the judge was a little bit like, "What are you trying to do here? Are you, oh, just creating a commercial and want this for good PR? Are you just trying to get attention with this?" But it those disregard for social norms that seems to be so prevalent is cause for concern on where they're gonna take these super intelligent glasses.
Ooh, that's a good segue into talking about, I guess, pretty much the smart glasses in general, right? So what are they and how they will integrate in society? Because I do feel like something that Meta is really good at, whether you like it or not, they're really good at introducing cringy new products. And we all criticize it at first. And then it just becomes normal the next day. Like the newsfeed, I feel like newsfeed was one of the
Oh,
first
wow.
cringiest. Like, well,
Yeah.
first of all, Facebook itself was a cringy tool, right? It's like everybody in the community have a Facebook, and it's like, oh my gosh, you could look at other people's profiles, see what it is. People would use it to stalk other, not stalk, but like check out other people's pages, what are the comments are. But then once they introduced newsfeed, which basically broadcasted all your activity to everyone, it was kind of like this way of feeling violated, but also at the same time, we ate it up because it's like you could see all these new topics and conversations that you could be a part of, even though it wasn't sent to you. Jamie sends to Bobby, "Hey, do you like this event that we went to last night?" And so, like, being able to see these conversations out loud really pulls you, like, it really taps into
Yeah, it's
some part of the
intoxicating. Yeah, and
yeah,
then the endless scroll
engagement. Yes, like reality
is
TV
create
a little bit, where it's toxic interactions, but then at the same time you can't look
you
away.
can't look
You just kind of
away.
want to keep, yeah.
I think, it's pretty nuts how quickly society has changed to respond to these norms of a website, right? So much of what platforms has done is permeated our culture and is a part of our world now. I mean, there's it's just incredible the reach that you have there. And so that search for growth of like, okay, how do we get a billion more users, right, on these different devices? And so um it's interesting to see the use cases, right? The benefit is heads up and hands free. We're no longer tethered to our phones.
Mhm.
And so it's a much more natural interaction to just be looking at someone when you're communicating with them. You've seen a few videos where the users of these glasses are talking about how, well, I'll be talking to someone and then I can have a text exchange with my wife or my husband. Well,
Mhm.
I'm like, no one will know that I'm getting a text at the same time that I'm talking to them. You're like, that is so rude. Like, I just don't want to be talking to someone and then being like, oh, wait, hold on, the notification. It's
That's true.
like,
For
and
those who are listening on Spotify, we're doing the swiping gesture, like, as
yeah,
we're talking to someone face to
yeah.
face with the glasses
It's
on.
like you're scrolling in the air instead of scrolling and your face is looking down, but it's still antisocial and somewhat rude.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Oh
The
no, I wasn't talking to you. I'm reading a text while I'm talking to you.
yeah.
Sorry." Like, what? I mean, oh, okay. What else are you doing? Oh, you're also recording. Oh, and just yesterday, actually, we're taping this on February 25th.
Mhm.
And yesterday on Blue Sky, there was a link to a developer who created an app that can detect smart glasses in the area. And then the description in the App Store said, act accordingly. Once you know there's someone with glasses on, because smart glasses are basically like a computer for your face, right? So all the things that you're doing with your phone, you'll now do with your glasses. So you won't need to be tethered to your phone, but now you're going to be tethered to your glasses and your phone because a lot of this stuff also does run on your phone, right? The developer came up with this app in response to articles coming out that users were taking their glasses into massage parlors and filming their masseuses without their knowledge. And so these women are on camera and then they upload this to social media, and that's the real danger is there is a perception around these
Yes.
glasses that they're pervy devices, basically. They're for perverts. And so I think in a big way there's this whole blind spot around what people see as a use case, whether it's fixing equipment or education or helping people navigate cities or real live translation, all these really useful use cases with a real dark side of the way that people use technology. And it's hard to think that you can surpass that negativity when we have the history of Google Glass most people remember Google Glass and how badly that failed, right? And so I think it's an
Why did
interesting
it fail? Why did Google Glasses fail? I don't remember.
because people did not at that time like to be filmed
No,
in public
filmed.
without knowing, and
Mhm.
so it created this sort of this separation of people feeling like as soon as you wore them, you had this perception of being a glass hole. So that term glass hole is what I think synced it, but what was underneath all that is
Mm,
surveillance technology. There's a quote that recently came out that said Facebook was in a unique position right now to release their facial recognition technology because consumers are distracted by other things that are going on right now so that they're not going to care as much about the
mm,
technicalities of what's going on with these glasses. So in terms of public safety, in terms of um, people's privacy, you've seen the video of these students who created an app that could use the glasses for facial recognition and identify where someone lives within a few seconds. So I think that the glasses have really good use cases for in like someplace inside that it's
mhm.
not collecting a lot of personal information, but anecdotally, even online, you'll see stories about real dangers around privacy, protecting people's personal information.
You brought up several good points. Like, what is the primary feature driving the glasses is a good question, and it does feel like the camera is. When you think of all the features that smart glasses is supposed to give us, you mentioned the texting, the communicating, all that. Like, I don't see anybody being like, "Oh, I want these glasses because I can communicate better," or like text, well, whatever. But I do see a lot of people are excited about the glasses because of that camera. And you bring up a good point of how being able to record covertly has introduced or amplifies a lot of these different risks of putting vulnerable demographics in different settings where they no longer can are held accountable. It's like when you put out your camera, people can see that. And so there's
It's a
a
much more visual, yeah, it's a much more overt thing.
yes. There people still do secretly record things and all that, but because of the way that the ergonomics of using your phone camera and having to place it in a certain way does make it so that it's not easy to do it, and if it is done, the person has a chance to respond or react. If it's not consensual, you can see that pretty obvious, but with the glasses, you don't get that. The glasses, I mean, they have, like, that LED indicator, but I used to wear the glasses all the time. Nobody
Nobody
ever
knows.
noticed
Nobody
the
knows. Most
slow
people aren't gonna
flashing white
know.
light. Yeah.
No.
And so and
Uh,
I'll say honestly, my first reaction first that Ray-Bans was appeal to me when I first bought it. I think I've had like 7 pairs already in the last 2 to 3 years. I lose all the time because my dog keeps
Wait,
chewing
tell
them
me,
for
your dog keeps chewing them.
yes, I've had 3 of them. The first 3 my dog
And how
chewed them.
much
He
were
keeps
those glasses at the time? They were 350, right?
they were I
$350?
luckily at that time I got it for I had an employee discount, so I was paying 150 each, US
Okay.
dollars. So yes, I did lose what
So, like, getting
150 times
AirPods or
2.
something.
I wouldn't even pay AirPods, but yeah.
I'm
At
just
least
saying, yeah,
150.
like, I'm just
Yeah, but yes, I guess if that's
but
how much AirPods cost, that's crazy to me. Like, I thought they were $40, but yeah.
no,
No,
I mean,
they're more
as someone
expensive.
with the spatial audio, the fancy ones are like 150, upwards of 150, but to your point about your dog ate your smart glasses,
3 of them.
um,
So yes, you're right. There is the creepiness aspect of it. The covert does allow for that, which is real concern. The reason why was that the Meta Ray Bans appeal to me. One, I document my life all the time with my phone, so I'm constantly taking videos and posting to IG stories every day. So like that to me was like the plus, but also because I'm a Black woman, this is my ability to get first person evidence, like video evidence of microaggressions when they were first announced. This was during the time of police brutality. That was Black Lives Matter. I think it was 2021. There was a lot of police incidents or interactions that were unsafe for Black people. And I was experiencing that all the time. I had just moved to a predominantly white area in LA and Marina Del Rey. So on a very daily basis, I was getting security called on me on a regular basis, on a regular. I was in an area that was like, maybe required a higher income to live there. I'd gotten a great deal during COVID. So, but there wasn't many people at all that looked like me at all. Because I had a dog every day, people would always assume I don't live there, or they would get confused as to why I was there, or they would ask me where I would live. And when I would tell my friends this, who were not part of the area, they would be surprised or like, really? Like they were surprised at the frequency. So like when I got the Meta Ray Bans, it was like a godsend. I was like, one, I feel safer because I think my first week that I had moved into the apartment complex, a security guard charged at me Well, I was in the parking lot and I was with my friend, Sasha. We were sitting. She was on the passenger seat. We had just came from like a Trader Joe's trip. I was showing her a video on my phone, and so my car was off, and all of a sudden I see a security guard staring at me, driving past in his little golf cart behind my car. Goes around twice, and I'm seeing him, and we're locking eyes, and I was like, "Uh oh." She's not noticing, but I'm like
But you
feeling
know
like
right
something's.
away.
I right
Yeah.
away I just continued looking, talking with her, and all of a sudden, sure enough, he gets out of his golf cart. Like, I see his facial expression is mean, and he's charging directly at the car. I'm scared because I'm seeing this big man like coming at the car. He yelled like, "Open your window! You're not supposed to park here." And I couldn't open my window because it was electric. You have to
Electric.
press the button, and my
No.
car was off. I was scared. I was like, "Shit!" Once I opened the door, like that's it. But that was the only way to accommodate his request he was demanding. So I opened the door and I said, "Hey, sorry, I live here." And he was like, which apartment do you live in?" I was like, "I live upstairs. I just moved here a week ago." He was like, "How come I've never seen you before?" And I was like, "Look, this is my parking permit right there." And he looked at it. He was like, "Oh, oh, okay. I didn't see your sticker. Sorry, people park here all the time. Then I'm not supposed to park here." And I'm like,
You
"Okay,
wow.
that's what the sticker is for. But you're coming at me like crazy." And because I've been seeing a lot of police brutality stuff happening, this is again during that Black Lives Matter movement. He leaves, but I'm shaken up. And I'm like, thank God, my friend Sasha was there, so she could be a witness to what had happened. But I'm thinking there are a lot of times where I'm going to be by myself. I just happened to be giving her a ride or whatever. We did the trip together. But I thought Meta Ray Bans to me, it was my safety device. I
Oh,
can easily
absolutely.
record interactions in an unsafe environment and have proof or evidence if needed. With that said, that covertness that would allow me to do that, because obviously if I put up a phone, I actually feel like that escalates the situation nowadays. But
Right.
there is also the dangers of it. CNN did a report about some TikToker was going out and hitting on women and recording them with the Ray Bans and posting it to his TikTok to show other men, how to hit on women in public. And so he's doing this without their
Record
permission.
them. Record them without their permission. Yeah, they'll definitely like
So it's interesting how, again, for different groups, for different demographics, it will land differently. And these are really important things to consider when you're building new innovation at scale. How unintended consequences is a thing. We know this is a thing. We've learned from previous examples of how social media can have unintended consequences, internet can have, and so as a result, government steps in to regulate and make sure that there's
but they're so
policies, there's
slow.
business.
They're
They're so
so
slow.
late. They're so behind on yeah. I mean, just take
And
a look at
yeah, but even then that's when we had a government that actually cared, right? At some points. Now we have a government that's like, safety may not be their first priority. And business does not care about people's safety. It cares about, I don't want to say it doesn't care about, well, it doesn't. It cares more about returns and maximizing returns. And so when you have that tension internal to a company, especially if a company is perceived to be, yeah, on the decline, then those rules, it's really hard for the safety arguments to ever win, especially when it comes to new tech like smart glasses. This to me feels like I don't want to say a desperate attempt, but it is kind of, it's a strategic pivot because the XR hasn't gotten where we need it to be fast enough. So smart glasses is still where the mainstream is still like, okay, we'll give that a chance because at least the form factor is a little bit more viable or ideal. It looks just like glasses, so there's something
lighter.
there.
Mhm.
Yes, lighter, regardless of what value it's going to give. But that covert camera thing is literally the thing that's selling it. I think today it is that standout feature. And if you were to remove that or to like try to regulate that, it just kind of,
Creates challenges and friction.
yeah. I also want to land the point too with these smart glasses that there is a huge value as well to capturing candid moments, right? So like I also love the idea of when I'm wearing smart glasses, when the scenario is is like not one of creepy oriented or
Protecting yourself or
protecting yourself.
documenting harm.
Yes. It has been a huge value of being able to press record and when I'm doing something with my friends socially, because sometimes when you bring out your camera, the people get into the poses and whatever, and then you lose the memory of that moment to people. Oh, this is going to go on IG or this is going to go on, TikTok or something like that. So it kind of changes the atmosphere. But to be able to just capture like a very candid moment and staying present, I think there is that singular amazing value to it. Granted, you do lose the third person perspective. You're never going to be in it. But I do think if they can isolate it to just something like that, where they can regulate it to where if you upload a TikTok of somebody and they report it, and there should be some punishments to it, you
But
know?
reporting mechanisms are really not where they need to be. There's been actually now less moderation
Mhm,
with the changes in the US administration. A lot of the guardrails and groups and organizations that have formed around policy and safety, one, have no teeth,
mhm,
and there's so many stories of companies neglecting or disregarding the findings of their own internal research around abusive features. So there's not a lot of incentive to do the right thing.
mhm.
There's certainly no oversight if you're doing the wrong thing. So,
Mhm. Well, that's
um,
what I'm saying. We have this for, what does it call it? Like, for, revenge.
revenge porn,
Yes, revenge porn. There was laws written around where you can now someone can go to jail, or there's some kind of civil punishment,
accountability.
accountability that happens where it can, one, work as a way to prevent this stuff from happening, or deterrence, and two, should be an appropriate action. And it's a very clear steps for a victim to be able to get that justice. And I feel similarly on a content scale, if your looks or whatever is being exploited to some degree and you don't get permission, or isn't it right, like they have to sign some kind of papers, or you can't just put anybody on TV, like reality TV, for example. They have to have some kind of consent. And now that TikToks and social media is becoming a content generation platform that anybody can do, I feel like there needs to be something in place where if a person does not consent to be on your TikTok that gets 24 million views or whatever, and you're exploiting their candid reactions so they didn't know you were filming, there should be something in place at a societal level.
It's tricky because it's always incumbent on the person who has been harmed to to do the work or to pursue justice.
This is definitely a design challenge.
It's a
I think this is
design
a
challenge,
design challenge, but it also has to be the business to prioritize it.
but it's also a business perception too. So let's say, you see these videos, people are taking out their phone, they're filming, and they'll say, "Get that phone out of my face," and they'll knock
Mhm.
it out of your hand. If you're
Yeah.
wearing that, they will do that to your face. And so
Well, the funny thing is, I think you can call the police on them because they technically can, like,
assaulted, of course,
yes,
it's
it's assault.
assault,
So I think the glasses
and you
too.
have it on camera. So
Yes, yeah, yeah.
you have the evidence.
That goes into your next point of, or what you were going into, is like, even if one company has a bad perception of surveillance, there's other companies, like they're not the only ones doing smart glasses. There's
Right.
a lot of big tech companies, like I think Apple is rumored to be having AI glasses soon, and there's a lot of smaller companies like Roku and the X Real.
Spectacles are coming out,
Yes. So
Snapchat's camera. There's also the demand for people to see, like, it's wanting to watch a movie or streaming. One of the most searched for terms when you look at smart glasses is, "How do I stream Netflix?" So
Mhm,
what comes to mind are the X Real glasses. Initially, there was Magic Leap that was coming out with the augmented reality headset, and then
mhm,
an employee from Magic Leap started their own glasses company, and it was called Nreal, and then
mhm.
they changed to X Real. And there was even a lawsuit around claims that they were taking some proprietary Magic Leap technology, which I think was dismissed. But the company was able to continue to make these glasses, and they're coming out with a new set. I think this year it's the X Real
Mm.
Pro.
It's interesting that you just said, like, the standout feature for that is not the capture recording, it was that people wanted to be able to look at big
Watch
screens, which is
Netflix.
watch Netflix, and that is something that every VR device has tried to enable as one of the key features. I have an X-Real pair, but, and I don't use it regularly, but how do you feel about that as a standout feature, and do you think that's the direction smart glasses should be going in terms of, enabling big screens versus cameras, or why
You
do you
know,
mention that exactly
well,
compared to
I
that?
think because technologists have this sort of like, we're going to save the world with our new devices, and yeah, we're going to help people overcome a social isolation, but meanwhile the top search for these glasses is, can I watch Netflix? So so we tend to be a little bit biased towards the capabilities of what this can do versus what people will actually use them for.
For
And that's the gap. And those are the kind of questions I think that creators need to be thinking about before tethering their vision to a technology that has already proven to fail, was already proven to fail with Google Glass. I mean, that wasn't even, those were still prototypes,
yeah,
right? And
yeah.
for people that were in the Bay Area and remember the iPhone moment when you just literally it was like you understand the level of what success means and you see everybody with these devices and how did they do it? They didn't do it by promising, oh, you're going to go into a 3D world and you're going to do all this stuff. They did it with music. People are used to having their music in their pocket. And what did they
Mm,
do? They said, you know what? We're going to add a camera to that and access to the web. I mean, the design on that and the seamless transition from music into in your pocket to the mobile web and a
mm,
camera. We were already addicted to the iPod, right? We were
yes,
already
yes.
had the form factor. We already and that's why I think people think, "Oh, well glasses, people are already wearing glasses." So how do you create something that's either productive or creative, but I'm compelled to come back and use it again and again. So what is going to be that the the killer app, right? The killer
Yeah.
app
For
for
the
these
smart
glasses.
glasses, that's where we're gonna find the killer app is through developers. What you had mentioned early in the conversation about big tech, you said they put $70 billion and we're still not there yet. And having worked, in big tech, I was actually just talking about this with my other friend who also used to work in big tech. And we were trying to think about all the products we've ever worked on in the XR space. And every single new product that hadn't existed yet in the market, they all got deprecated at some point, but every product that already had existed outside and that was doing well, that we then scaled, was the products that have strong footing today. I've seen a lot of these amazing products that should have had found product market fit get killed in the process because there's so many cooks in the kitchen with different motives and agendas, and there's politics. It just kind of, there's death by
There's an agenda starts to, yeah, different narratives start to compete.
bureaucracy facing. Yes, there's a lot of these things where then it kind of just kills the ability for something that should have had legs to find legs. Whereas what we do see in the real world with creators and developers who are very singularly focused on solving this problem, not only do they discover a lot of these things that maybe big tech wouldn't throw their money behind because it's not obviously something that would be successful, but they also are able to build a thing faster and find that market.
Because they don't have all the infrastructure, bureaucracy.
So when I think about where innovation comes from, if there isn't a strong, strong investment in the developer cycle, like I do think big tech is perfect on platforms, like that's where they live best. And obviously piloting with first party developers or content creators, whatever, to kind of demonstrate the full potential of the technology helps to keep the platform ready and stable enough for developers to start to experiment on and kind of find the right market fit. So when it comes to VR, because of the heavy focus on gaming in the beginning rather than a more open approach to solutions, especially if you think about how expensive these devices cost, we know that the average consumer is not going to pay for a device that's so expensive and doesn't really have much in it. If I were to have designed this whole VR thing myself, if I had bought Oculus, I would be like, this is going to be expensive. So let's build something for enterprise companies or people who can afford it and solve a problem right away. We know that the original birth of VR was the military training device. Training is the product market fit because there's some clear value, obvious value there. So let's find all these places where training can be expedited, where people can pay, build the technology out, grow it, maybe add some fun gaming stuff on the side through the SDK if people want to game, but lead with this is a spatial computer solution and then evolve it towards the consumer. Like that would have felt like the natural path for this technology. But unfortunately,
That's funny.
because yeah, what?
I'm not funny and
Yeah.
interesting that because I feel the opposite. I feel like they should have just led with games in the beginning. They should have just been
But
like,
they
"This is a
did. They did
gaming."
lead with games.
But
It was always all gaming.
no, it didn't. No, these. Sorry, it's just it was like "Oh, it's the empathy machine." No, it's a like, I think the messaging was off in the beginning. Like, they gave
They
all
got
that
lost
money,
because
but
of the gaming. Gaming was the biggest noise. So when people are like hearing empathy machine, they're like, how do I put these two together? Gaming is so antagonistic to anything serious that actually could benefit from a tool like VR. They led with, we're going to give you guys the next evolution of the PlayStation, but also it's going to help you solve world hunger.
world hunger.
It's like,
I think it's funny, because VR is it can be so many things, but people need it to be in a box, right? They need to understand it right away and ingest it and get it without realizing it can do all of these different things. But when I came to VR, it was really about, oh, this is going to open the door for many artists and creators. This is a new avenue for artists to earn an income off of making apps, similar to the way there was gonna be a VR app store the way that
oh,
there's an Apple App Store, and that just did not bear out for a majority of the users. There's tons of success stories of people that have made $1 million in sales,
yes.
but not at the degree or scale that we see with mobile, right? Once mobile came forward, everyone was a mobile developer. That was how people were able to, like, create a sustainable business, create a sustainable living, whether you were an independent artist or a business. That wasn't the case with VR, and I think that won't be the case with glasses.
So here's the thing with when it comes to mobile developers, mobile was not introduced as a gaming solution. Mobile was introduced as a utility. It was general
But
device,
it was a
general
real
computation.
use case. It was a solution for a real problem.
And I think if VR went that same approach, which is because of the hardware, because of what you need to do in order to have VR, it's going to be too heavy. It's going to have to be a headset that's going to be heavy. It's going to have wonky controllers and sensors to capture where you are. Because it's such a high tech device, it has a high barrier of access. So it doesn't make sense to make this a consumer solution. It makes sense to make this a business
Enough.
solution where the return of is going to be high. That means I can train a
Right.
thousand of my employees instead of taking 6 months. It's going to take a week because they're using VR. Like there's a clear return of high investment and it's a high return. And so therefore it was never a consumer device from the beginning to me. And I feel like they've shot themselves in the foot by saying this is a gaming solution. So that's such a niche vertical that
Yeah.
like as someone who doesn't, if I got introduced to mobile as a gaming thing, I wouldn't think like, let me put my, what's the app, like a,
A health tracker
yeah,
or a
because
habit
it doesn't.
tracker or a meditation track. Yeah.
Yes, it's not gonna appeal to, gamers, at least that's how I'm gonna think about it. So I feel like they narrowed it in a way that you can't come back that way. But if they had just kept it general, this is a VR headset that for enterprise that's going to help training, and then open the SDK for the early adopters who want to have VR in their space to be able to build apps for it for their use case, because then the company can make profit as well
Right.
rather than selling it at a loss. And then some people are going to create games and those are going to do really well. And that's going to sell the headset even further. But at the end of the day, everyone mainstream knows what it's for. This is going to expedite advanced computer experiences.
So you think launching it as a consumer device was a mistake? You think it should have been developed as an enterprise business device, similar to the way large computers were in the office? I love watching old sitcoms or old TV shows, and you could see like the computer in the corner off. Like there's the
Yeah.
computers there and it's all fancy, but it's in the corner and it's off. Like nobody lives that anyway. It's like and the telephone is front and center. It's just like
Yeah.
it's um it's funny to see that, but yeah, right. It's pervasive in the office environment, in the business environment, and then now we have one for home. We have one, we're on them all the time.
Exactly, and
So
that's exactly how the computer trajectory was. Business could afford a XYZ $1,000 computer at that time, and they
yeah,
helped their workers expedite their work. That as a workers, we don't know what this computer is, but we have to learn it for the job, and it's so we have to learn how to type. But these are all things we're not going to care to do on our own volition. But if I'm getting my paycheck depends on it, and I'm told this is how I can do the job well, I'm going to learn how to type and get that skill on this weird thing that I'm not paying for, and I'm using it. Now I see the value over time. I can write docs, I can do all that stuff. So then, fast forward a few years, somebody wants to sell me this device. I can use it for home. amazing. I already know how to use it because I see it at
Right.
work. It's already normalized. Now I'm like, oh, I can use this for my own day to day. Yeah, this is great. And then people pay for it that way. And then it kind of naturally becomes that
It's
everyday tool for everyone. Hello, and that is the end of part one. So if you made it to the end of the show, thank you so much. And I just want to remind you, if you want more content like this, please like and subscribe. This is my first time doing podcasts, so this is an experiment. I think the first video we had was about almost 2 hours long. So I've heard some feedback, it would be great to like try to cut it up. So in this podcast, I'm doing exactly that. This one was a hefty topic, and me and Ceciliana could go for hours on this stuff, just because we're really excited about the technology and we really, really want to make sure we have a grounded understanding of where it is. And I think, again, both of our perspectives really help to get us to a balanced way of thinking about how to approach whether it need to be tempered or a little bit more gassed up. But also to just get some clarity around a lot of the noise that is in the XR and in general the tech industry today, outside of just life in general in the world. So yeah, so this session what we did was we kind of covered the landscape itself. When you're launching a new technology, and especially with people making predictions, it's really important to take into context what's happening in societal level, the cultural level, because that is part of the equation always. You can launch the right thing and it could be the wrong time if the culture hasn't isn't adapted to it or hasn't been ready for it, or depending on what else is out there. We do mention like Google Glasses. Let's be real, that was like the first consumer attempted approach with bringing smart glasses into the market. And as Ceciliana pointed out, culturally, we were not ready for that yet, and it had a lot of backlash. And maybe now is the time. Maybe now people are used to be on camera. Everybody's a content creator where, CCTV is a thing. Maybe now is the time where smart glasses is more readily adoptable by the mainstream, or maybe we haven't adjusted to it yet. These are all questions that we are going to continue to ponder in the next episode, talking more from what is the killer app, what is the AI role into these smart glasses future, and more so looking at the product itself in the next episode to more accurately determine how smart glasses will land. Of course, I hate predictions. I'm totally against, looking up to those, but because we are very much tech enthusiasts, we are also trying to keep our feet on the ground and really take a step back and look at where we are today in the market, what is being talked about, what is being asked for, what are the user needs, and how user-centered is this approach. A lot of this technology in XR and as we mentioned in the previous video, is not obvious exactly what problem we're solving for users today, as much as it might be for other previous innovations. This is a leading edge tech. Oh, that's the excitement for it. For a tech enthusiast, this is always going to be our market, right? We love tech, advancing tech. We love cool things we could do with tech. Whether or not we need it or not, it's going to be fun for us. But as we invest into whether or not this is going to be mainstream, or if other non-tech enthusiasts are going to adapt to it, it's good for us to keep our feet on the ground, or thumb on that climate as we consider how we invest in it as a result. And yeah, but all of this just to have fun. We hope you return to listen to the rest of this podcast. I plan to have it out by next week. Again, this is new, so all feedback is a gift. But please be constructive. We're trying our best. So, like, comment, subscribe, definitely subscribe. Tell us what your thoughts are. What do you think about the landscape? Is there anything that you feel like we missed or didn't really cover or should have covered more of? And hope to see you guys next week. And I hope you guys enjoy this one.